G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, September 5th, 2022. And if you're wondering why I'm just a little bit red in the face, I've just finished doing a little bit of training myself, running a little bit behind schedule. But we're here and great to have you along as always. So we've got a fair bit to get through tonight. If you haven't been here before, I've got my own agenda to go through, which I'll go through in a second. But this is your show, so we want your input, or I want your input, your feedback. So there's the comment section there. Any questions, comments, whatever you might think you want to put it into tonight's show, this episode, put it in there, and I'll do my best to answer your question or any other comment that you want to put in on any subject I have. So tonight, as always, we've got the Aussie news, the world news. A bit going on in the Aussie scene at the moment. We've got the big Paro Brock Jarvis event coming up on October 15. So I'm going to run through the card in a second there. The weekend we have Beck Hawker winning the WIBA World Featherweight female title. A little bit going on with Jai Apataya at the moment. The world scene, we've got the today's event, if you're watching live that is Andrew Ruiz and Luis Ortiz. And we've got news on Tyson Fury, all the latest stuff. But the big thing we're going to do tonight is go through all the ranked Australians in the World Boxing Organisation. So the WBA, WBC, IBF. We're going to run through them all and just see where they're at. The new rankings are coming out. Big news with Michael Zarafa in particular. We're going to go through that as well. So it's all happening with Aussies in the boxing world at the moment. You know, it's hard to sort of keep track of all these world title fights. Of course, we've got the Shannon O'Connell, Ebony Bridges affair that's still going on. We've got the Tim Tszyu Charlo fight that's coming up in the near future. We've got the George Kambosos, Devin Haney fight. Of course, as I said before, Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis. There's so much going on. Add into it the Zarafa situation and a lot of people on the brink of world title fights at the moment. So fantastic news for Aussie boxing fans. First we'll get into the Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis event. Now the undercard, well the whole card's actually been announced for that. We've got obviously the main event, Paro and Jarvis. That's over 10 rounds, I think it is. I would have thought I'd have that there. It is 10 rounds for the WBO Global Super Lightweight title. So I must admit, I'm not 100% sure what the global title is. But at the end of the day, look, it's all about rankings for these guys. It's obviously not, I'm not sure, it's obviously not a world title, but I'm not sure whether it's a regional title or what the global means. By definition, global means the world. So it's got me buggered what it is. But anyway, they're fighting for the WBO Global. But either way, good rankings for whoever wins, and that's the main thing. On the undercard, we've got Abdullah Mayweather. Now, I think he's going under a different name at the moment. However, we'll call him Mayweather in this situation. He's coming up. That's going to be a ripper fight. Matteo Tapia, who's I'm going to talk about soon, who's in the ratings as well. That is for the WBA Oceania Super Middleweight title. That'll be a ripper. He's a massive unit, is Mayweather. I can't believe he's actually fighting at Super Middleweight. So, actually, while I'm talking, I'm going to bring this up on the webcam just so you can see what I'm talking about there. There it is there. So you can see at the top there, Paro and Jarvis, Mayweather, Tapia. Dempsey McKean, really looking forward to this one. He's fighting Patrick Corte, I think you can pronounce it. He's from Germany. That's for the IBF Intercontinental Heavyweight title. That's over 10 rounds as well. Good records there. You see McKean 21-0, Corte 18-1-1. So that should be a really good one. Good introduction, I think, for Dempsey and McKean on the world stage. I know he's had international fights. He's had a couple of fights, I think, in America, maybe in England. I can't remember. But either way, really good step up for McKean. Let's have a look at, actually, while we're going, let's have a look at Corte's record. So he's 18-1-1, as you can see there, 15 KOs. So I'll just go back to his loss. So you can see there was a second round KO, German Boxing Association International Heavyweight title back in 2018. So 4 years ago. You can see there he's had 6 wins since then and a draw. All but one coming by, bar one coming by knockout. So, yeah, look, it'll be a good step up for Dempsey. I think that'll be a really good one for him, as I said, to show his wares, and I'm sure he'll go very well now. And the other one, this is not a bad one either. This is Sky Nicholson making an Aussie debut, if you will. This is her 5th fight, and having her first fight on Australian soil. She's fighting Cristina Mousey Jacobs, 6-3. For the Commonwealth featherweight title, vacant title. So that's a really good fight too, I think. Look, I think Sky Nicholson will have way too many tools for Christina Jacobs, but she's honest. She comes to fight, has a crack. So I think that's a really good test for Sky. I'm assuming they'll add more fights. This might be just the televised version. Well, there's still 40 rounds involved there, I suppose. So the promoter, Angelo DiCarlo, with a bit to do with that one, which is really good. And matchmaker is Angelo DiCarlo as well. So, yeah, that'll be a ripper card. And it's strange enough, it's on the day before Kambosos and Haney, which I think we've spoken about it on here before. Would you pay for both events? I'm assuming it's got to be a pay-per-view, you would think. It would have to be. They've got to pay for that Paro Jarvis fight sometimes, bringing international fighters in for Dempsey McKeon as well. So, yeah, you've got to find the money somewhere, unless Eddie Hearn's looking to maybe have a bit of a lost leader for starters just to make his mark. Great card, though. Really, really good card. And I don't think it really matters who else they put on the undercard of that. Those 4 fights could all be main events in their own right. So, really good effort by Angelo DiCarlo, Eddie Hearn, all involved, Ace Boxing, Matchroom Boxing. So, yeah, really looking forward to that one. Yeah, so what do you guys think? Are you going to pay the $60 or whatever it is times 2 on the Saturday and Sunday? If you've got a choice, which one are you going to go for? I'm assuming it's going to be the Kambosos card on the Sunday, but still, not a bad card at all, and value for money. I mean, it's yeah, good for, again, Aussie boxing. I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind doing this for Eddie Hearn. I know it's good to sometimes tiptoe or piggyback off the back of a big card in the Kambosos event. However, when you're wanting money for a pay-per-view event, I'm not quite sure this is the way to go. But anyway, he knows best. He's been doing this a long time. And, you know, I'm assuming he wouldn't do this if there wasn't good reasoning behind it. So that's October 15th, Paro Jarvis, South Bank Piazza in Brisbane, October 15th. So I think tickets are on sale now. So get in and get them and support another massive event in Aussie boxing, especially if you can't get down to the Kambosos Haney fight, which is, of course, in Melbourne at the Rod Laver Arena. Get some tickets, support Angelo DiCarlo and Eddie Hearn with this, and put on a massive event, because at the end of the day, we need these events to be successful so that we can keep them coming. So good on all concerned there. Speaking of ace boxing, on the weekend, we had Beck Hawker. She got the win over Holly Tao for the WIBA featherweight title. Don't forget too, guys, if you've got a comment or a question, put it in the comment section there. Just put them in there and I'll see it. Give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, all those wonderful things that we get told to say, because this show is your show, and we need that. Well, we want that interaction. I really want to hear your thoughts on things. It's great to hear me talk for an hour or so, you know, as I go, but it'd be great to have a little bit of input there. If I can spit that out. It is Monday. All right, so we'll go through the results here again. I'll bring it up on my screen. You can see there in the main event. Well, actually, we'll start from the top. Abdullah Mayweather had the 8-round stoppage over Ali Elrich. On the undercard, Ty Narkle was stopped by Rocky Ogden. I didn't mind Rocky Ogden, actually. I thought he showed a bit. I think he's got an MMA background, if I'm correct, making his second fight in the boxing ring, and beat Ty Narkle, stopped him there. It was a pretty impressive card. I will say a very impressive event in total. I thought it was great by for what Enzo did. The main event there, you can see Beck Hawker with the 10-round decision, I should say, over Holly Tao. The interesting thing with this one is that Tao was only 18 years of age. Came in, and I know it says there it was her debut. I've had good sources tell me that she was actually 8-0. I'm not quite sure why it's not coming up there. If you do know, put it in the comment section there. But I have been told she's had 8 fights. I got a feeling she was more of an amateur. That's where she's got her experience. Because I must admit, I did raise my eyebrows when I saw that she was only 18 years of age and had somehow won a version of the world title. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. But good on Beck Hawker. It's her first foray into probably fight of this magnitude. She was the main event, which is again great for female boxing in this country. We're seeing more and more of it. Can't wait actually for the big one coming up soon, which is Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields. Should be a ripper. And great to see female boxers getting main events, getting some money put into them. Of course, we've got the Shannon O'Connell, Ebony Bridges fight. Hopefully will come to fruition soon. So good on her. Another one on the undercard was Vegas Larfield. Went to 6-0. With the win over Sonati Gamboa, 8-2-2. So look, I think at this stage, Vegas Larfield's really good. I know they're not sort of feeding him, let's just say legitimate, world ranked type of guys. He's only a young kid. I think he's only 18 or 19 years of age. So he's got plenty of years in front of him. I really like the approach they're taking with him, fighting regularly, getting good credentialed guys who maybe aren't big punchers or super experienced, just good, honest fighters who can give him the rounds. He only went 3 rounds in this one, of course, but got himself a belt, the IBO Oceania Orient Super Bantamweight title. All these belts are always a mouthful. So you can see that it was waved off after the second knockdown without counting. Other fights on the undercard, Nathan Webber with a 6-round decision over Parwan Goyat. Undefeated too was Goyat too, so that was a good win. Who else there? Justin Rihanna with a first-round knockout of Ryan Lamont. Jake Lund with a TKO over Hayden Emerson. And Stephen Ivick with a 5-round decision over Justice Jackson. So that was the card there. So good on Beck Hawker for getting the win there. Look, it's probably not one of the, it's not one of the officially recognised world belts. Obviously, it's not a WBA, WBC, IBF or WBO, but you've got to start somewhere. Now the WIBA belt, good Aussie fighters, and Shannon O'Connell, Shanika Johnson, and others have won WIBA world titles. So it's really just a good stepping stone. It'll give her a good grounding to then go for one of the legitimate belts out there, or maybe a Commonwealth title next, whatever it might be. But what these belts do, sometimes a lot of people, raise the eyebrows about the legitimacy of the belts. But look, what it is a stepping stone to give them better rankings and to climb up the rankings. So keep those comments coming, guys. Haven't seen any yet. Let's go. I know there's a few of you watching out there. So if you've got something to say, put it in the comment section. We're going to move on. One thing I wanted to actually bring up is Jai Apatai. And I had the pleasure of catching up with Jai a couple of weeks ago at the, or a week or so ago at the Hall of Fame induction. Ripper guy. Look, this belt has done nothing to change his whole attitude, his whole outlook. A really, really down-to-earth type of guy. And talks now he's going to be fighting Robert Whittaker, who had a win over the weekend in March 2023. So what do you think about that? I'm not a big fan of the whole crossover, we'll say. I know you put the promoter's hat on. It makes sense to do the fight. Dean Lonnie going to be rubbing his hands together with this about the prospect of how much money and interest it will get in it. I, for one, I'm not a fan of it. I didn't like the Mayweather-McGregor fight, even though that made plenty of dollars. And as I say, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. I can understand that. But I'm just not sure. I know that's probably what they're going for in this one, but I'm just not sure whether Australian boxing fans will be as receptive to it as what they were, as the world scene was for Mayweather and McGregor. I don't know. And personally, just as in the Mayweather and McGregor thing, I think Whittaker, look, he's a great MMA fighter. Full respect to him as a combat arts fighter, but Jai Apatai will absolutely slaughter Robert Whittaker. I don't think he's got the power to hurt Jai. I think he fights at 10 kilos less. So I don't think he's got the power to hurt Jai. Certainly hasn't got the boxing skills to get anywhere near Jai. Great event, we'll call it. But as far as an actual fight, I think Jai Apatai completely outclasses Robert Whittaker. And that's having showing no disrespect to Robert as a fighter. I'm talking boxing. Boxing in time. I'm not talking MMA or UFC, whatever the hell it's called these days. All I'm saying is in the boxing ring, he has no chance, zero chance of beating Jai Apatai. What do you guys think? I've got a comment here from Rowan. Thanks, Rowan, for the comment, mate. What's your thoughts on so many belts everywhere? Oz title always been a title not to be defended. Sure, there's a way to make it a bit more prestigious. It's just a title now passed around to anyone. Yeah, mate, you're 100% right. Sadly, I've got to agree with you. I've got to say, in my opinion, the Australian boxing belt or title has severely lost its significance, and it makes me sad to say, because I know when I was boxing, I was only an amateur, of course, but winning the Australian amateur title meant more to me than all the international medals that I won. I cherish the 6 titles that I've won. I've still got them proudly here at home, the medals, they're here somewhere, but I've got them. And they meant a lot more to me. So I'm with you. The Australian title, I know, look, I went to what would you call it, a summit or it was a get-together anyway. It was in Sydney about 3 or 4 years ago. It was held by the ANBF to get promoters together to talk about how to give the Australian title a bit more prestige, get a bit more fighters wanting to fight for it, and put it out there a little bit. I know they've been trying. I think they jazzied up the belt. I think they brought in the Australasian title as well. Look, I think the easiest way to get around this, I'm not sure the legalities of it all, Rowan, but I would think maybe if they brought in something like you cannot fight for an international title of any sort unless you have won an Australian title. Now, it's easier said than done. I don't know how it works, but maybe you've got to win an Australian title to then be able to challenge for an Oceania title or an IBO or the Orient Pacific, Orient Asia. All the different organisations have got them. I know it might make it a bit hard because there's so many of those regional belts now and only one Australian belt. But there's got to be something in place. And I'm with you. It's just a means to an end now. It's just, I may as well, if I've got nothing else going, I may as well fight for the Aussie title. And that should not be the way it is. It's a tough one. As long as those cheap, I won't call them cheap. It's probably a bad word for it. But as long as those regional titles are out there, and I know they look nice, shiny, new type of belts, but at the end of the day, whether it's Orient Pacific or the left to right or east to west or up and down, regional, interim, whatever the whole title is, to me, all it is a means to end to get some sort of ranking. So I don't like all these names they invent for these belts, and I've been in it where literally it was for a WBA Oceania East-West title. Now, I don't even know what an East-West title is. I know we're in the West fighting the East, whatever it might be, but it was a ridiculous attempt just to get money out of me as a promoter to get a belt. So, and I can speak freely because I'm not aligned to any of these guys, but the whole organisations that are out there, all in their own ways, are all guilty of this. So as long as they've got those belts out there for the fighters to fight, well, why would they fight for the Aussie title if they can fight for a WBO, WBA, IBF, WBC, whatever it is, regional belt? It's an easy way to get a ranking. And as we've seen in a lot of Aussie fighters in the past few years, get that top 15 ranking and anything can happen. I've seen fighters that have fought 0 credentialed world-class fighters. I'm not going to name names here. I'm just going to put it out there. But I've seen Aussie fighters that have fought for world titles in the last 5, 6, 7 years who have not beat anywhere near a fighter that looks anything like world class, and they've beaten them. They've won some sort of regional title, got themselves a top 15 ranking, and landed themselves a voluntary shot by someone, and they've got their opportunity. So good luck to them. Hey, end of the day, it's not their fault. They're just playing the system, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So, but so many belts everywhere, mate. I hate the fact there's so many belts everywhere. I despise it. But end of the day, mate, as much as I jump up and down, and you guys out there jump up and down. End of the day, the sanctioning body feed off the promoters because the promoters love to have a belt up for grabs. It looks great on the poster, looks great in the ring. But I've literally seen guys that have had 8 fights and got 8 belts. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that is the case. But again, that's boxing in the current landscape. I would hope that maybe even with the regional side of things, maybe don't call them, I don't know, maybe they're not actual regional type of belts. They're a rankings belt, or maybe they're official eliminators, or just something. Don't call them belts, because as long as these fighters can get these shiny belts and bypass great fight belts like the Aussie title, they're going to continue to do it. Because the Oz, maybe they've got to make it so the Oz title carries more weight rankings wise. Maybe they've, again, it's easier said than done, hook up with the sanctioning bodies to say however it's done on the ranking system, that Aussie title's worth more points as far as rankings goes. I don't know, but the Australasian thing's another one. I don't know. Technically, really, it should be Australia versus New Zealand, but they've sort of brought in all these different belts. Actually, before we move on, I know you got another comment there, Rowan. Before we move on for that, the one thing that is the biggest bugbear for me is they bring in these regional titles, but you'll have an Aussie fighting, say, a Colombian, or an Aussie fighting an Argentinian for the WBA Oceania title. How does that work? That is ridiculous. That is stupid. If you're going to fight for an Oceania title, it must be against another fighter from the Oceania. Surely, am I asking for too much? But when you bring in, say, and I've had it myself, some of my fighters have fought like a Mexican for an Oceania title. It means zero. And even if, say, the Mexican wins the belt, what are they going to do with an Oceania title? They're going to get home and probably give it to the kid to play with as far as WWE or something goes. It's ridiculous. So, worst case, fight for the title in your region, and you must be from that region to be able to fight for the belt. That's just my 2 cents, and I don't think it's too much to ask. Looks like you agree too, mate. 100% agree. Does hurt to see. Whole ranking system needs a full overhaul, but hey, what can we do? Too much money involved. And I've had it explained to me numerous times. I understand it, but I am stubborn, and I'll continually, act like a spoiled baby when it comes to this. I've had Peter Maniatis explain it to me. I've had Nick Noonan explain it to me. All these guys explain to me the way it works, and I know the way it works. I've promoted lots of these type of fights, but it doesn't mean it's right. In an ideal world, all the sanctioning bodies, it wouldn't be how many sanctioning fees your promoters paid. It wouldn't be by what regional belt you've won. It would be by fighting on its merits. And maybe everyone gets a ranking, and when you beat, if you're number 19 in the world and you fight someone that's number 33 in the world, there's points involved, and that moves you up the ranking, and it's universally recognised by all 4 sanctioning bodies, or in some way, or maybe they all have their own individual. I know that they technically do have this sort of point system, but winning a WBA or WBO or IBF, whatever it is, some sort of regional title against an import that doesn't qualify for the belt anyway, and it gets you a top 15 ranking, I don't like it. So maybe if that was the case, as I said, it might be that all 4 sanctioning bodies, maybe what they've got to do is have one overall sanctioning body that doesn't have a belt, but the job purely and solely is to police the 4 or whatever it is, the main 4 organisations, to make sure that the rankings are done a certain way. So almost like if you get it like, say it's tennis, you got the, or golf, whatever it is, they've got the overall sanctioning body that oversees it all, and then maybe have the belts underneath it that they have to abide by a universal world body. So as I said, the world body doesn't hand out a belt, but they oversee the 4 sanctioning bodies to make sure they've all got the right ranking system, and they're all having the right people fight for the right belts. And the regional belts might have some sort of different meaning or different points or whatever it might be. But there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. As I said, it's ridiculous when you've got a fighter. Let's say it's Australia. I'm only using this as a bit of an example. You've got an Australian fighter that will fight Filipinos, Indians, Fijians, whatever it might be. I'm not picking on those countries. I'm just using that as an example. None of them are anywhere near world ranked fighters, but because they beat one of them for a WBO belt, say, an Orient Pacific, whatever it is, suddenly they're ranked in the top 15. That is wrong. And that's where we need the overall sanctioning body to have a policy in place that all 4 organisations have to abide by. Easier said than done, because like you just said there, too much money involved. Do you really think the WBC and the WBA and those types of organisations are going to give it out to third parties to look over what they do? I strongly doubt it. Way too much money, because those guys just invent a belt for the sake of it. Haven't got a belt? Or whatever, we'll just invent one, which has been done way too many times in the past. So that's just the way it happens. So really appreciate your comment there to Rowan. Anyway, on to... if any of you got a comment out there for the Opataya-Whittaker situation, let me know. I'm against it. I don't like it. I would really like Jai to have... Doesn't have to fight maybe a top-ranked fighter for starters. Get someone that's obviously world-ranked in his top 10, 12, 15, whatever it might be, a legitimate fighter that is, and give him an opportunity. I know they're looking at the Jason Waitley fight. I did speak to him about that. And I think I've got no doubt that's the fight they're going to look at. So don't be surprised if he has a warm-up fight earlier in the year, and then it's Jason Waitley maybe mid next year, I would think, an all-Aussie world title fight, which would be great. Does Jason Waitley deserve the ranking? Well, we'll get into that a little bit later as well. Some other things to go over, guys, before we get into the ranked Aussies. A little bit of world news. Andrew Ruiz had the win over Luis Ortiz today in LA. Also on the undercard, I'm just going to bring that up there. We'll have a good look. I think on the undercard was one thing I did look at was Charles Martin, the ex-IBF heavyweight champion. Hang on, we'll just look at here. All right, so where are we? So he had the 12-round unanimous decision today. Scores were 114, 111, 113, 112, and 114, 111. Ortiz was knocked down in the second and the seventh. Ruiz had the cut eye, of course, as well. Wasn't a bad fight, actually. It was on Fox Sports. Whether you guys saw it, let me know if you did and what you thought. But it wasn't a bad sort of fight. I thought Andy Ruiz actually looked pretty good. And they had Deontay Wilder jump in the ring after the fight. So the odds are those two will fight in the near future, I think. I know we've got some news on Deontay Wilder in a second here. But, yeah, that would be a really good fight. Wilder, look, he's just got that power. He can knock out anyone. I think I say as nicely as I can possibly say it, not the most skilled heavyweight champion of all time. That's all I can say. But he's got that big right hand and can literally take out anyone, except the Gypsy King, of course. Knocked him down a few times in their fights and couldn't get the job done. But there's talk that it'll be Ruiz or even Usyk. Alexander Usyk has said that if he can't get the Tyson Fury fight, that he would like to fight Deontay Wilder. What do you think about that? How would that fight? Geez, the size difference would just be massive. Alexander Usyk, who looked tiny against Joshua. I don't know. I shudder to think how small he'd look against Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So would he beat Deontay Wilder? Yes, I think he would. I think he would avoid that right hand and outbox him. Let's face it, Wilder's pretty much out of steam after 2 or 3 rounds. I think Usyk would play it safe, pick it up in the middle rounds, and might even stop him late, I think. And I think he's a bit too slick to get caught with that right hand. However, if he did, could be lights out. Who knows? So we'll see what happens there. So also on the undercard, as I said, Charles Martin, former IBF heavyweight champion, a 4th-round knockout of Devin Vargas. Abner Mares had a draw against Miguel Flores. I've got his... where are we? That's actually his record there. Let's have a look. So on the undercard, Abner Mares. So it was a draw. That was 96-94, 95-95, 95-94. 95-95. So a majority draw there. Also on the undercard, Isaac Cruz, very impressive with a 2nd-round knockout of Eduardo Ramirez. So it looked pretty good, Isaac Cruz, I will say. So the odds are he will get another shot. I know they're talking about him fighting Tank Davis as well in a rematch if the Garcia fight doesn't happen. So yeah, I think, not sure the result would change. I just don't think it's a nothing fight for me if he fights if Davis fights as Isaac Cruz again. I know probably the fans might want it, but I think really it's a bit of a step backwards if you ask me, as far as what would happen there. So anyway, let us know if you did see that fight and your thoughts. The other one I saw over the weekend is that Juan Francisco Estrada will fight Chocolatito Gonzalez on December 3, which will be a ripper. They've had 2 fights before, 1 fight each. I thought Gonzalez won the 2nd fight against Estrada, but good luck to him. Estrada won over the weekend as well to set up that fight. So that'll be a ripper. Really looking forward to that one. I think it'll be interesting to see whether Gonzalez has got another fight left in him. A big fight. There's been in a lot of wars over the years, so that's December 3, as I said, so that should be a ripper. I think that'll probably be in LA, you would think. So, that will be a good fight. Looking forward to that one. And news, too, from the WBO that Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker, they're fighting on September 24th in London, England. Actually, it might be Manchester, in England anyway. That will now be for the WBO interim title. So, I think the WBO are a little bit concerned that it's only been fought for a couple of times in the last couple of years. So they're looking to have an interim champion unless in case there's some hold-ups and there might be some other fights that they've got to step aside for, or some delays with whatever. So that's now for the WBO interim title. One more thing on the heavyweights is that Tyson Fury has said that if he can't make the Usyk fight, that he would like to fight Anthony Joshua in December. Now, I really strongly doubt whether that one will happen in December. I think it's too soon. A fight of that magnitude. I don't mind the sound of the fight, by the way. I think it could be a Canelo type of situation where he could have had the rematch with Bivol. It hasn't taken away, I think, from the magnitude of his fight with Golovkin. I think people want to see that fight. And I think the same with this one too. I think people would love to see Fury and Joshua, more so than what they would like to see Fury against Usyk, I would think, especially in England. So, but I just think 3 months' time, it's a little bit too soon to make that fight for December. I would think it'd be more like February, March next year if it was to happen. But Joshua, of course, has been talking through his promoter, Eddie Hearn. He'd like to fight before the end of the year. I still doubt that he will fight by the end of the year, but who knows? Maybe he'll have a tune-up fight and in December, hopefully, and then him and Fury will fight in, as I said, February, March, or even April next year. Fury's in no rush, so I would love to see that fight. Usyk and Fury would be a fascinating fight, but if I had to, if it come down to one, I would prefer him to fight Anthony Joshua instead of Usyk. So that's a bit of the Aussie news and world news, guys. If you've got anything else to throw at me, put it in the comment section there. If not, we're going to get into all the Aussies that are currently ranked in the world rankings. As I said, big news on Zarafa. I'm just going to have a drink there before we get into it. All right, guys. So we've got a few to get through here. There's lots of guys that are ranked at the moment. All right, so the first one, we'll get into the first slide here. Let's start at heavyweight. Lucas Brown is ranked WBA number 10, and Dempsey McKean is IBF number 13 and WBO number 10. So, of course, Tyson Fury is the WBC champion for both of these guys. Alexander Usyk, of course, is the WBA, IBF, and WBO champions, which relates to these guys. I'm not quite sure where these two sort of sit. I think it's an interesting one because Lucas Brown has really reinvented himself, hasn't he? He's had those last two big wins, especially the last one over Junior Farr. And I know he's got the fight. I haven't got it with me at the moment. I forgot who he's fighting, but he's got a big fight at the end of the year. I'll get to it in a sec. So if he wins that, the timing might be right to maybe just be able to slip in with one of those voluntary fights. You just don't know. And it could be an Anthony Joshua situation. He's obviously with Eddie Hearn. Who knows? If Eddie doesn't want to get the Dempsey McKean fight with Joshua at this stage, might be a little bit early. Who knows? Lucas Brown could slip in there. If Eddie does they're talking about a world tour with Anthony Joshua, maybe, and Australia's on the map for that to happen. Who knows? It could be Anthony Joshua, Lucas Brown, in some sort of eliminator or some sort of interim title, whatever the hell it might be. But if not, even if it's just a 10 or 12 round fight between the two, big fight to put on Australia. It probably makes more sense than the Dempsey McKean fight. Dempsey's, what has he had, 21 fights, whatever it is now. I think he's probably another 2 or 3 fights away from being in a position to fight someone like Joshua. But who knows? Eddie Hearn might say, hey, this is perfect for the Aussie market. Let's put him in with McKean Joshua. Great event to have down under, and who knows? So. But either way, I think big things for both of these guys. I think Lucas Brown obviously has got the fight in there. If he wins that, anything can happen. Dempsey McKean's obviously being groomed for a future shot, you would think, at a version of the heavyweight title. On to the cruiserweights. The only ones that really matter there, obviously, Jaya Pataya and Jason Waitley. Jaya Pataya, obviously the IBF champion, won it over Maris Breedis a couple of months ago. Jason Waitley, IBF number 10. I will say, he is fighting pretty soon, and again, I've forgotten who he's fighting, so I'm going to have to type it in here while I'm speaking to you. He's got a big fight lined up, and if he wins that, more than deserves a shot at Jaya Pataya. So maybe having said that, maybe that's what they're looking at now, is that Jai will have a nice cruisy warm-up, if it is Whittaker or someone else, by, March next year. Jason Waitley will have his fight against, actually, they haven't even got it on BoxRec yet at the moment, so disregard that. If you know who he's fighting, put it in the comments. I can't remember who he's fighting. I've got it there somewhere. But so if he gets past that, it's in Poland, I think it is. So if he wins that, then that is the obvious fight next. So you can see there's that IBF number 10. He will improve if he wins at the end of the year. He'll probably go to number 1 or number 2, I would think. And that gives us the big fight with Jaya Pataya. So I'm glad he's having that big fight before just being gifted a fight with Jaya just because he's Aussie. I really want him to earn it. So hopefully if he wins that fight at the end of the year, that will more than justify his ranking at the moment. Light heavyweight. This is an interesting one. Technically, he's not an Aussie, I know, but he's based here in Australia at the Fortitude Gym under Steve Della and Luke Meldon. Had that great win over Faris Chevalier a couple of months ago. He's now ranked in the top 11 of 2 organisations, number 11 in the WBA, number 9 in the IBF. So what a great effort for him. I saw him, he got beat by Letty, and I must admit at the time, I thought, I'm not quite sure if this guy's sort of got what it takes to make it. But to win over Farah Chevalier, who was ranked in the top 15 in all 4 organisations, a really, really good win. And didn't just win, he won it quite comfortably. So a really good effort by him. The champion at WBA is Dmitry Bivol, of course. And with the IBF, it is Arda Beterbiev. So 2 very, very tough fights there. I think he's probably 2 or 3 fights away for getting a chance of that. Although you never know. Maybe these Bivol and Beterbiev have big fights being talked about with them. Both fights, Beterbiev is just coming off a big win. Bivol's got one coming up against Gabuto Ramirez. So both got bigger fish to fry at the moment. But you just never know. You got to be in it to win it. So good on him for getting those rankings. At super middleweight, this one's surprising as well. Matteo Tapia is ranked WBA number 15 at super middleweight. So Canelo Alvarez, of course, is the super middleweight world champion. Now, his next fight against Mayweather could maybe propel him a little bit further up the rankings. Might even get him another ranking with some of the other organisations as well. So a big fight there with Tapia. So obviously he's managed by Michael Tamura. One of the best in the business. So, so interesting times for Tapia. Oh, thanks, Ross. You've brought up Jason Weltley's next fight. Thanks. You'd think I'd be a bit more organised than this. Next fight against Matus Mastanak. I think that's the way you pronounce it. That's 100% right, mate. So I think it's in October in Poland. So if he can win that, more than deserves his crack at Jaya Pataya. So getting back to that one, Matteo Tapia, WBA number 15, big raps on him. Mike Altamura thinks he's definitely a world champion in the making, so that will be a big one for him with Mayweather. If he wins that one, of course, who knows what can happen after that. You can see down there, the big one, the big news, middleweight. Michael Zarafa, we all knew he was ranked number 2 with the with the IBF, WBO number 7 as well thrown in there, is now ranked number 1 by the WBA. Now that has major implications. Now the good mate Nick Noonan has given me the news on that one. So WBA number 1. Of course, the middleweight champion is Gennady Golovkin. He's got the WBA and IBF belts. Demetrius Andrade, although I think he might did he just get stripped of that? I think from memory, I can't remember. He's listed there as a champion at the moment, although there is the interim champion is Janabek Alam Kanali. I think that Kanali, obviously a Russian. But look, the big focus there is the WBA 1, IBF number 2. So we all know Triple G is fighting in a couple of weeks against Canelo. Who knows what happens after that? If he beats Canelo, I'm not quite sure whether he's going to want to fight a Michael Zarafa. He might want to fight a Charlo, one of those types of guys. Either way, and Charlo's obviously WBC champion. Will the WBA or IBF strip him of one of those belts if he won't defend against Michael Zarafa or Esquiva Falcao, who's the IBF number 1? All sorts of things that could happen. I've got a feeling that Triple G, if he wins, will vacate one of those, or if not both of those belts, and fight Charlo in a big money fight. He doesn't want to fight, with all due respect to Michael Zarafa and Falcao and Munguia and all. I don't think he wants to fight those guys. He wants the big fights to retire. So I think Charlo probably makes sense. And maybe Munguia, but definitely Charlo. If he loses, I think that's curtains for Triple G to be over. All his belts will be vacant, or both his belts. And Michael Zarafa, take your pick. Is it going to be Ryota Murata? I take that back. It would have to be Arizandi Lara, who will be elevated to full champion. Does he fight Arizandi Lara, or does he fight Esquiva Falcao for the vacant IBF belt? So many possibilities, but all he's got to do is sit tight, because he's going to get a world title shot before he knows it. I'm not sure whether it'll be by the end of the year and whether he wants to take another fight before then. He's only had 2 fights this year, remember? Or was it 1 fight? I know he had fought the Fijian before Isaac Hardman. I'm not quite sure it was end of last year or the start of this year, whatever it is. Hasn't really been active in the last couple of years. So does he sit on his rating, or does he have a tune-up fight, whatever it might be? But either way, the world is at his feet. Is Michael Zarafa. Big things on the horizon for him. And look, He's played it very, very well. A lot of people have laid the boots into him for different reasons. I know there was fighting Mundine and there was pulling out of Zoo and all the other ones and the whole spiteful thing with Isaac Hardman. But look, as his nickname says, at the moment, he's sitting pretty. So, what is going to happen? WBA 1, IBF 2, and who knows, maybe even the WBO might be a voluntary defence and he might get a crack at that. But either way, he's going to get a world title shot, I would think, within the next 6 to 7 or maybe 8 months, I would think. So, good on him and his team. They've done a great job to get him where he is at the moment. So, hopefully he gets that crack. Let's turn the page to the super welterweights. Of course, our man, Timmy Tszyu, WBC number 2, IBF number 3, WBO number 1. So Jermell Charlo, he's the king of all 4 organisations. What more do you say? January 28th in the States, January 29th it is here. It is going to be massive. I don't think they've actually said a venue for it yet. It will be January 20th, as I said, in Vegas. Hopefully it might be at the MGM Grand, or maybe they could put it at the Mandalay Bay or one of those types of places. I'm not quite sure it's big enough for T-Mobile Arena. I think that's about 20,000. They do get about 15 to 16 at the MGM. I'm not quite sure that would draw that amount of crowd, but they can actually scale it down so it can be half of that. I did go to the Jeff Horn and Terence Crawford fight there, and I think they had about 8,000 people. They tiered off the top section, and it was a really, really good atmosphere in there. You wouldn't even known they'd sectioned it off, so I'm not quite sure what they would do. I would think 8,000 to 9,000 would be sort of the mark for Tim Tszyu's fight with Charlo. But can't wait. It's going to come around really, really quick. It's 4 or 5 months away. 4 months, I think it is. So really looking forward to that. As I said, what do you say about his fight? It's all there for Tim Tszyu against Jermell Charlo. Don't know about you guys, but geez, I just can't wait till he lays his hands on Charlo. I'm not a fan of his. I love him as a fighter. He can fight. He's a very, very, very dangerous guy. Tim's definitely up against it. Make no bones about it. This is as tough as they come for Tim Tszyu. And a bit like when George Kambosos fought Teofimo Lopez, if he wins these belts, it'll go down in the boxing, Australian boxing annals as far as one of those great achievements, no matter how he does it. Could be a first round knockout or a 12-round decision, doesn't matter. Make no mistake about it. The task that Tim Tszyu faces in this is as big as any Australian fighter has ever faced. We've all got faith that he can do it. Fingers crossed. I think they realise the magnitude of what they're up against, especially with, obviously, Glenn Jennings. He's been there with his dad's Costa fighting, Zab Judas of the world, all those great fights or big fights that he had in Vegas. He was there, so he knows exactly what he's up against. He's been there before, a veteran of all this situation. So Tim Tszyu could not have a better guy in his corner. So all the best to Tim Tszyu in that fight. Super lightweights we'll go to now. You can see there, Liam Paro, IBF number 6, WBO number 2. Interesting one, the WBO one. Firstly, the IBF. Josh Taylor is still the IBF holder, although I did see, I think it was just recently, that he might be vacating that belt. He's already vacated the WBC and WBA belts. The IBF, I'm pretty sure, might be next, but he's going to keep the WBO title, and which is a bit stiff for Liam, because that was the one that he was in line to fight for. But the interesting thing with this one, the WBO, he was ranked number 1. He's now been dropped to number 2 in favour of Teofimo Lopez, which I think is a bit stiff when you've got a guy that's actually ranked number 1 and hasn't done anything wrong and hasn't lost, to actually be jumped or leapfrogged over by Teofimo Lopez, who, look, he had a good win, but it wasn't, let's not call it, the guy he fought wasn't exactly a superstar. So to be leapfrogged by him, you can see what they want there. They want Teofimo Lopez to get the fight with Josh Taylor next, which is probably why I would think Liam Paro has taken this fight with Brock Jarvis, because he's been told that you're a little bit away from fighting for the world title. Let's hope I'm wrong. But but look, he's got a big task in front of him as well with Brock Jarvis. That's a tough fight. I know Brock hasn't exactly had big fights in the past, and he's fought at a very, very low weight. Much lower weight. But make no mistake, Jeff Fennick wouldn't have taken this fight if he didn't think he could win. So I think that's going to be a great fight as well. So Liam Paro, number 6 in the IBF, at number 2 in the WBO, and if he gets past Brock Jarvis, who knows what might happen after that. Maybe he might get a shot at the IBF belt. He might actually go up in that and fight Jeremiah Ponce for the Ponce for the vacant title. Who knows? But we'll see what happens there. In the lightweights, this is where all the action is at the moment too. George Kambosos is WBC number 3, WBA number 6, IBF number 5, and WBO number 5. So, of course, he's fighting Devin Haney in the rematch October 16th. So, Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne. So, again, like Tim Tszyu, what more can you say about that? Fighting for the undisputed title. I can't believe we've got 2 Aussies fighting within 6 months of each other for the undisputed world title. It's amazing. So let's hope he can get over the line for that one. Look, even if I think he loses that fight, I think I've said on the show last week, the deep dive show, or it might even be in this show, that no matter what happens with George, he's going to have big fights out there. It doesn't matter whether he loses this to Haney badly. He's going to have all those other fighters, the Garcias, Davises, Shakur Stevensons, Lomachenko's maybe, all the up-and-coming prospects out there are going to want to fight George Kambosos to get that name. And the big paydays are going to come with it if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, then George, step away. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. But if he wants to hang around and just get those paydays, plenty of big fights for him out there. This was a surprising one for me. I will say Brock Jarvis, IBF number 11. I wasn't actually aware that he was ranked at number 11, I will say. That's at lightweight, which I'll go to now. So the Devin Haney, of course, as in George's situation there, the champion. Will he stay at welterweight or go back down to lightweight? Now, it's interesting too. I think he's only had... I'm not sure he even fought at lightweight in the last fight, or was it super featherweight, the one fight he had in the States? Maybe it was a lightweight. Not sure that guy qualified him to be IBF number 11, but end of the day, it is what it is. So good luck to Brock. I think the world of this kid. He can fight. And with Jeff Fennick behind him, of course, he is in very, very good hands. And I got no doubt he will fight for a world title at some stage. Before we get on to Bilal Dib there, Ross Levitt has got another comment. Think Glenn Jennings just said Tim will fight at the MGM same venue Costa won his first world title at and on same date. Okay, yeah, it was January 28th. I remember that well when Costa beat Jake the Snake Rodriguez. Okay, I did see, Ross, that he'd mentioned that I'm not sure whether they said they'd wanted it at the MGM or that's where it was going to be. Look, I don't think it's really neither here nor there. I think if it came down to it, I've got a feeling somewhere like Charlo will say, no, I don't want it at the MGM, just to spite Tim. He's just that type of guy. As you said there's no doubt they're pushing for it. Whether or not it actually ends up there, I hope it does. MGM's the best place, I think, in the world to watch boxing at. So hopefully you're right there, mate. But time will tell. A venue's got to be announced very, very soon, of course, because we're going to start the build-up with all the promotion and all the rest of it, which will come around very quickly. But, we're almost past footy finals, and then, we're into summer, and, then we're at Christmas, and all of a sudden, it's there, New Year's, and we're into it. The other one there, Bilal Dib, you can see there, IBF number 7, WBO number 13. Again, Devin Haney with all those belts. So, Billy Dib, I should say. I'm not sure what they call him, Bilal, sorry. Billy Dib. Not sure what's actually on the horizon for Billy. Of course, he had that last fight against Jacob NG. I would like those guys to fight again. Look, if Billy Dib, he's smart, of course. He's not fighting Jacob NG again. He was getting beaten in that fight. Why would you risk these rankings when you don't really have to, unless one of those organisations say you must fight him? I don't know. Jacob NG, I'm not quite sure why he hasn't been back in there yet. I would have thought if I was him, definitely in his team, would have thrown him back in there straight away. Even if he can't get the rematch with Billy Dib, I'd throw him in there anyway to get back amongst it. Because as you can see, he's lost his world ranking. He's not ranked anywhere. So not sure what's happening there with Jacob NG. Hopefully he's back. He's a good kid. A lot of spark about him, I will say. A lot of entertainment value. So hopefully he's back pretty soon. And again, with Ace Boxing in good hands as well. Super featherweights, a bit going on there as well. Liam Wilson, WBA number 11. The world champion in that division is Hector Luis Garcia at super featherweight. I think I got that right. What is it? WBA number 11. No, I've got that wrong. Sorry, where is he? Have I got that wrong? Sorry, he's IBF number 11. Apologies for that. It's not WBA 11. He's IBF 11. And the champion is Joe Cordina. So Liam Wilson doing everything right at the moment. No big rush for Liam. He's had that big win last time out. But before that, of course, or 2 fights before that, he had that disappointing loss to Noine. So no rush for him. He's only a young guy. I think get a few more fights into him. Get maybe ranked with a couple of the other organisations, and his time will come. Great talent, Liam. And I'd like to see him get a little bit more experience to work on a few different things. Great trainer, Benny Harrington, of course. So I think he's destined for bigger things as well, Liam Wilson. So we'll see what happens there. How good will the fight with this bloke be? Paul Fleming, who's ranked WBA number 12, IBF number 13. The WBA champion, I just said, is Hector Luis Garcia. And, Cordina is the IBF champion. So, geez, how good it would be if these two fought. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense for both camps to fight each other when they're both ranked in the top 11 or 12 of the organisations, but as fight fans, that would be great. Again, I'm not quite sure it would work because you've got No Limit and DNL. Not quite sure they're exactly sending Christmas cards to each other at the moment, so we'll see what happens there. And then Bilal Dib, WBA 15 and IBF number 15. So all the guys all ranked in the top 15 by the IBF, and a couple of them ranked by the WBA. So, yeah, good stuff for both of those guys. On to the next one. We'll keep going down. We've got the featherweights. Sam Goodman, IBF number 8 and WBO number 9 in the featherweight division. The IBF champion is Josh Warrington. The WBO champion is Emmanuel Navarrete. So that's good news for Sam Goodman. Exactly the same basket, I think, as Liam Wilson. Plenty of time for Sam. He's in good hands there with No Limit. Great team behind him. So why rush it? Get another 3, 4, 5, if not 6 fights into him, and then aim. Because the thing is, what I'm conscious of sometimes with these guys is that you see a lot of times especially I've seen with some Aussies who will get that world title shot and they're not ready, and they get in there and they get badly exposed on the big stage and get a touch up by the champion. I would like to see take, say, Tim Tszyu approach or George Kambosos approach. Don't just fight for the world title. Win the world title. I know Tim hasn't done it yet, but he's had those fights to get him ready to fight for the world title. So just because you're ranked in the top 15 by beating some regional guys or whatever it might be, in my opinion, just stay away from the world title fights, until you're absolutely ready to go. Tim's ready to go. George was ready to go. So Rafa's ready to go. I just think Sam Goodman, again, I'd like to see 12, 18 months, I think, before they even think about fighting for a world title. Just my 2 cents. At bantamweight, these guys definitely 100% ready to fight for world titles. I'm referring to the Maloney boys. Jason Maloney, look at that. WBC number 1, WBO number 1, WBA number 8, IBF number 5. So in their divisions at bantamweight, Naoya Inoue, of course, is the WBC, WBA and IBF champion. WBO champion is Paul Butler. These two are obviously fighting against each other. But the good news for Jason is that if Inoue wins, he will most likely move up in weight, which gives Jason a crack at any one of 4, definitely either WBC or WBO belts. So he would fight in that division. If it was WBC, he would probably fight Rungvisai. That would be a tough fight, but good one for Jason. Rungvisai, of course, got stopped in his last fight. So that would be one. And the WBO would be John Rael Casimero. So that would be the 2 big ones. And I know, knowing Jason like I do, I think he'd love to fight Nonito Donaire for that WBC belt. That would be great for him. I've seen him spar in Vegas, and it was very even. That was before Jason had really hit the marker where he is now, and did quite well against Nonito. I know he'd love to fight Donaire in that fight, but anyway, he wouldn't care. And I think Rungvisai would be good, because I remember going to the Superfly tournament in LA back in 2017 with the Twins. We sat ringside when Rungvisai knocked out Chocolatito Gonzalez, so I know he'd love that challenge to fight him. He took the challenge, of course, against Inoue. Didn't get the job done, but geez, who hasn't? So I got no doubt this time, if he gets another crack, he will win the title, whoever he fights. I've got no doubt. He's had 2 cracks at it. I've got no doubt he'll get the 3rd attempt right. And at super flyweight, of course, his brother Andrew Maloney, the Munster, WBC number 5, WBA number 5, IBF number 9, and WBO number 4. So in those divisions at WBC, you've got one Francisco Estrada. Jesse Rodriguez is the interim champion. So either one of those fights would be massive. Joshua Franco, I think he's had enough to do with. Fernando Martinez is the IBF champion. And Kazuto Ioka is a WBO champion. And I think he might have maybe targeted Ioka as maybe someone they're going to go for that title. So either way, he won't care. And I think he's in the same boat. He gets another crack. I got no doubt he can win a version of the world title, Andy. Franco's style, I think, was all wrong for him. And I think we're quick to write these guys off way too quick. They lose a fight. They're not good enough. Put them to bed. Retire. Who says you've got to retire because you lose a fight? We've seen so many examples of perseverance over the years. Andy Malone, yep, he didn't get the wins over Franco, but who's to say he can't fight one of these guys and mesh a little bit better with the styles and get the job done this time. So definitely in Team Maloney's camp, I've got no doubt that they'll both get cracks at the world title again soon, and hopefully we'll bring the titles home. Shane has a comment. Sam boxes beautifully, but the in-and-out style will get tested against world-class fighters. Might be good to do a USA training camp and spar camp. Yeah, no, good point, mate, and that's again what I said as far as not rushing it. And I don't think they're in any rush or no any need to hurry him along at the moment. He's had a few fights now, but I don't think he's anywhere near ready for a world title. And as we saw with Liam Wilson, mate, the step up in class caught him off guard. Because you remember with Liam, he had a few fights in the lead up to that where he was getting in close. He was sitting in the pocket. He wouldn't step out. He dropped the hands. He'd sit there to be hit, and he got chinned. And he got knocked out by Noine and paid the price for probably taking for granted your opponent. So I would hope that Sam learns from that and just takes the opportunity. And I haven't seen any sign of that, by the way. He treats every fighter like they're world champions. But I'm with you, mate. I would like to see him, maybe get a couple of international fights even, go and have a couple of fights over in the States or wherever it might be, or England or wherever it takes him. But definitely do some training camps. Definitely get some good world-class sparring. And this kid has got the world in front of him. Another one like Liam Wilson who could definitely fight for a world title in the next 2 to 3 years, I would think. So let's see what happens there. Last one, guys, we're going to get onto before we go is the girls, the females. A little bit happening with them at the moment, or plenty happening. At flyweight, we have Taylor Robertson, who is ranked I'll just get that off the screen there. He's ranked number 3 by the IBF, which is great news. I wasn't sure she was actually ranked by anyone at the moment. Doing very well at the moment, Taylor. She only had a handful of fights, of course, lost to Shannon O'Connell. No disgrace in that. She lost a pretty close 10-round decision in that one. Pretty sure that might have been a split decision as well. So the champion in her division is Leonela Udica from Argentina, who's got the IBF strap. Have had rumours, heard rumours, I will say, that maybe she could be fighting on the Kambosos undercard in a world title fight, if you will. Only rumours at the moment, but I heard that maybe it could be Jamie Mitchell for the WBA belt. I know, although having said that, there has been visa issues with Jamie Mitchell because she was, of course, rumours she was going to fight Susie Ramadan. Again, lots of things could happen, but I've heard rumours, again, as I said, that Taylor might be fighting for a world title on the Kambosos Haney undercard. So look out for that one. But at the moment, IBF number 3 at flyweight. At super flyweight, as I just talked about then, Susie Ramadan, WBC number 12. Of course, she's a former world champion herself. WBA number 9. The WBC champion is Lourdes Juarez from Mexico. The WBA champion is Clara Lescarat from Argentina. I feel a little bit for Susie. She's got a win, obviously, last month. So she's just sort of chugging like at the moment. She's not getting any younger. I really hope she gets a crack at it. She's paid her dues. She's a former world champion. As I just said before, there's rumours she was going to fight Jamie Mitchell. That fight now looks to have fallen through. I hope something else comes up and she gets that shot for a world title, whether it's on the Kambosos undercard or another card somewhere else, just to give her one more crack at it before she retires. At bantamweight, this is where all the action is, of course. Ebony Bridges is the IBF world champion. Shannon O'Connell is the IBF number 1, so a mandatory challenger, but she's also ranked number 1 by the WBA and number 4 by the WBC. The champion in the WBC is Julian Luna for Mexico. Jamie Mitchell, who I just discussed then, is a WBA champion. And also in that division, Dina Thorsland from Sweden is a WBO champion. Jamie Mitchell is from the USA. I think regardless of all the rankings and champions in the other organisations, there's only one fight that we all care about here, and that's the fight between O'Connell and Bridges. Still, it's going to purse bids on the 15th, I think, of September. So by that date, we'll know exactly who's going to promote it. We're going to know exactly what date it should be and where it's going to be, I would think. I know there's a little bit of haggling going back and forth at the moment. I just think it'd be a tragedy if this fight ends up in the UK. I know Eddie Hearn said, it'd be great to have it in the UK. Ebony's very well known over there, but surely Eddie, he's only sort of joking with us. Surely that Bridges and O'Connell, both Aussie girls, has to be in Australia. It has to be, surely. And I can't understand, even if Eddie Hearn wins the purse bid, why he wouldn't say, all right, let's go to Australia. I'm going to be putting on all these shows in Australia. What better fight could you have than this to headline one of those shows? It just makes sense. We mentioned before maybe Dempsey McKeon or Lucas Brown against Anthony Joshua. It just makes all the sense in the world. So we'll see. Before we move on there, a comment from Shane. Thanks, Shane. Glenn Jennings is getting together Tim's USA Fight official supporter tour with group seating and extras. Should be announced within the next 2 weeks. He's with various travel agencies now. Well, yeah, it's exactly what I was expecting, mate. And if that's the case, that will be awesome. I know when Jeff Horn fought Terence Crawford in Vegas, D&L Events had, actually, was he with D&L then or was it Duco, whoever it was, did put some tours together. And if you're thinking about going with that, definitely look at it. Hang on, what have we got here? Andy's decided to come in. Sorry I'm late. Well, it's about time you come in, Andy. We haven't heard any comments from you, so good to have you there, mate. We're just talking about the Tim Tszyu fight in the States with Jamel Charlo. Yeah, so what will happen with those packages, guys? I would say you'll have to organise your own flights. I would think they would have a section for Tim supporters. You'll pay a set amount, and for that amount of money, you'll get obviously a seat in the section. You'll probably get a get-together with the No Limit guys, and maybe Tim will be there. Glenn will definitely be there. You might get access to a few other bits and pieces. Prepare to pay for it, though, I will say. It won't be overly cheap. So just do your homework on that. There will be a boxing deep dive tour as well over there. Unofficially, we will be going over there, and if you guys want to come with us, same thing. We'll be putting a date out there to sit with us. And, I'll be taking you to, obviously, if you haven't been there before, I'm talking about as well, the weigh-in and the press day, and do some rounds of the gyms and whatever else we can maybe do over there as well. So that's a little bit of an alternative. I can probably assure you it won't be as expensive as that one. But if you want to be part of the official group, by all means, look out for Glenn Jennings' announcement, or No Limit, I'm assuming will announce it, I would think. But either way, get over there and support Tim. I'm assuming there'll be a shitload of people that'll go over there, which would be great. I will definitely be there, and can't wait to support Tim. But either way, whatever path you decide to go down, whether it's with them or by yourself, or, as I said, with us, whatever it might be, look out for it and get over there and support Tim. It should be an awesome event. All right, still on the female rankings. I'll just remove that. At Super Bantamweight, we've got Shanika Johnson, who's the IBF champion. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Shanika Johnson, because I did hear that she's parted ways with Sam Labruna. Sam's obviously had some health problems, so all the best to Sam. But I haven't really heard much who she's training with, or who now is promoting her, or her management. I'm assuming her management is the same. But where does she go from here? There's not a lot on the agenda for her at the moment, for what I'm hearing. So hopefully she hooks up with firstly a trainer, and then someone that can get behind her and get her some of the events. If I was her, I'd be picking up the phone and ringing D&L or No Limit and seeing what you can do, because that's where the opportunities are. Or an Eddie Hearn, who knows? At featherweight, a couple of girls ranked there. Sky Nicholson, that surprised me. She only had 4 fights, I think, so she's done pretty well to be ranked in the IBF. It's amazing what happens when you're with a big corporation like Matchroom with Eddie Hearn. But she's ranked number 8. The world champion in that division is Sarah Marford from Denmark. And Beck Hawker, who won on the weekend, as we mentioned earlier. IBF number 12. I'd say she will now go up in the rankings after that. I'm not sure how high. I'm not sure what status the WIBA has in the scheme of things, but I would say she'll jump up another couple of notches, I would think. But all the best. Fought really well. Maybe there's a fight down the track with her and Sky. But for me, Sky Nicholson is 100% a world champion in the making. I think when she gets a crack at it, she will win it and defend it multiple times, and will be very, very hard to beat at that level. She's got a great style for the pros. I know she's not a massive hitter, but what of the girls in that division is or are, I don't think you could really say there's a real good puncher out there in the featherweight division. So I don't think she's got much to worry about there. But I think no matter what happens, she will win the world title, whether it be WBA, WBC, IBF, or WBO. No bums about it, I think. And hopefully Beck Hawker can win a belt. And who knows, in a couple of years' time, they can fight each other. Shane, I'll be supporting the Boxing Deep Dive tour. Oh, that'd be great, mate. It'd be great to have you along, and we'll obviously announce details about all what we're going to do. And look, but the thing is to remember too, guys, either way, when we're in Vegas, or I'm assuming it'll be in Vegas, I think it's 99.9% there. No matter what happens, there will be so many Aussies there. No matter where we go, we'll be mixing with all the other contingents there. When I was there for Crawford and Horn, it was an unbelievable atmosphere. You know, when I first got there, I ran into Barry Michael and Jeff Fennick and all these, Jeff Horn himself, who was sitting in the food court when we first got there. Went to get a coffee and something to eat in the food court, and there's Jeff Horn having a pizza with his wife. Well, he wasn't eating pizza, his wife was. But, you know, so many Aussies over there. It was just an awesome experience, and I think this will be 5 to 10 times what that was. Tim's a very, very popular fighter here in Australia. But, mate, it'll be, Shane, it'll be awesome to have you along. As I said, I'll release details of what we're going to do. But either way, come along and support Tim and just socialise with all the other boxing fans from Australia, around the world, I will say, because there'll be people from everywhere. It's an awesome week in Vegas, I will say. So, but whether it's with us or with the official party, we'll show you a time like you haven't seen before, mate. So it'll be great to have you along. And the last one we're going to have a look at super lightweight is Deanna Hobbs, DD Hobbs, IBF number 7. The champion at division is Chantel Cameron from England. Don't know a lot about Deanna Hobbs. I've seen her fight a couple of times. Hasn't really been busy lately, and I'm not quite sure where she falls in the scheme of things as far as getting a shot any time soon, but she's ranked number 7 with the IBF, so who knows what might happen there. So that's it for the rankings there, guys. What do we got here, Ross? MGM Food Court talking boxing for hours. Great tip. Yeah, well, Ross, 100%. You were with us when we went to see Jeff Horn and Terence Crawford. I forgot you were with us for that one. I know you were with us for the for one of them, but I forgot it was Horn and Crawford. And how awesome was it? I must say, that was about 45 friggin' degrees every single day we were there. So the old air-conditioned casinos were great just to sit and relax all day. Because if you haven't been there before, especially that time of year, January will be great. By the way, it'll probably be mid-20s, so it'll be great. But when we went there, it was mid-June. And as I said, 45 degrees every single day for the whole 10 days we were there. It was horrific. But that's why they have air conditioning in the casinos, and we had a ball. And as I said, we went, and I'll continue the talk on here, but just on that, we actually met up with Jeff Horn after he did his open workout. I think I did a video on this on here for the big fights I'd been to, but went to his open workout at the MGM Grand. He finished his workout. What they do, they get up there and they just jazzy around, and it's more for the cameras and everyone else out there. And so they get up there and do a little bit of Sarah boxing, maybe a bit of pads, a bit of skipping, whatever it might be. So after his workout, we went out the front to grab a taxi, and he was waiting out there to get his bus to go to his final proper workout at the gym of who's his trainer? Barry from New Zealand. Sorry, can't remember his name off the top of my head. Got knocked out by Evander Holyfield in the Olympics. You think I'd be able to remember his name, but anyway, it's been a long night. But so we went. Kevin Barry is his name. So I went to his gym. We got photos with Jeff out the front of MGM. We then got a ride. We took our car. Barry Michael jumped in the car with us, and we went to his final workout at Kevin Barry's gym. Currently, Keezer was there covering it. It was awesome. It was a very, very closed shop affair. There's probably only about 15 to 20 of us in this little gym there. And it was awesome. So there are little things that can happen. Not sure that's going to happen this time, but so many things that we can show you and you can be part of. And, just the nights, you never know who you're going to run into and have a beer or in the food court or have a coffee with. There's so much to happen over there. And if you haven't been before and you're thinking of going and you're unsure, don't be scared. Even if you're by yourself, just come over. I went by myself the first few times to Vegas. Rest assured, if you've got the leave pass from the missus and you want to go by yourself, don't hesitate, because you can come with us or part of the official team. So either way, you'll be looked after. Guys, that's about it for this week. Yes, it was bloody hot, Ross. And I'm looking at now, we're actually heading over. Actually, that's what I'll say before I head off. I'm heading over to Vegas on Friday this week. I'm heading over for Canelo and Triple G. So there'll be no shows for the next couple of weeks. However, what I'm planning to do, I'm not quite sure what format I'm going to do. I will be doing daily updates from Vegas, whether it's a live or I do a wrap-up of the day and put it on every day. But every single day there will be an update on YouTube. I will then obviously share it to Facebook. And if you're asking why we're not on Facebook now, I did get banned a few weeks ago, if you didn't know. And I'm just not game enough to share it on my new Facebook page now, which is why we're going live on YouTube only. I will put the link up on Facebook to watch it later on, but at this stage it's YouTube. But so off for 2 weeks. I will cover every single day something from over there. I'll try. Look, it's pretty hard to get interviews and that sort of stuff, but again, you never know who you run into. I've run into Mike Tyson in the food court. I've run into Sugar Ray Leonard in the food court. I've run into Roberto Duran in the food court. I've run into Paulie Malignaggi in an elevator. I've run into Julio Cesar Chavez in a coffee shop. You never know who you're going to run into. That's all I'll say. And we'll try and get as much footage as we can. But either way, I'll be just, as I said, doing a daily wrap up of what's going on. And if you guys have got any questions or anything you might want to cover over there, let us know. But make sure you're on YouTube every single day. On Instagram as well. Like us on Instagram. Again, we haven't got a Facebook page at the moment, but Instagram and Facebook. And we might even do, if you follow us on Instagram, I know you can do Instagram lives, I think, and that might be maybe a little bit easier as far as the Wi-Fi situation is over there. This program I'm using here takes up a little bit of speed or bandwidth or whatever how it is. So maybe we'll see how we go. If we want to do a live, we might do it on Instagram instead. I've seen other guys do it on Instagram. It seems to work quite well. So that's what we might do. So either way, I'll put the updates out there, guys, and keep the likes coming. Anything you want me to discuss? Actually, we've got a question before we go. Wilder versus Ruiz. Who you got? I think Ruiz for me. I know Wilder's got that big right hand. I think Ruiz can take it or at least avoid it. I think Ruiz wins that fight and cuts Wilder down. I'm not sure whether he stops him, but I think he can win a decision. That's just my 2 cents. And apologies, guys, if you're putting comments on there, it takes me a little while. There is a little bit of a delay in this. I've had to slow down the bandwidth so that it sort of keeps up with what we're trying to do. If I run it at live, it really lags. Because it's trying to keep up with my internet. So that's why if I don't respond straight away, that's why, guys. But that's about it, guys. As I said, keep a lookout next week. I'll be in Vegas and can't wait for that. I'm also going to go to the UFC on the Saturday night. I must admit, I'm not a big UFC fan, but hey, I'm in Vegas, so I may as well go. So I'll be, I think it's Nate Diaz and I don't know who he's fighting. There's a Russian guy who's fighting. But either way, I've been to UFC a couple of times over there. Great nights of fights. So, again, looking forward to that one. And then, of course, we've got Fight Week and into Canelo and Triple G on the 17th over there, which is the 18th here. Yeah, that's it, guys. Really appreciate you guys either watching live or after the fact. We're getting more and more likes and subscribers every single week. So it means a lot to work. It doesn't work, and we'll go back to the format we've got now. But I think it'd be great to get you guys on for a bit of a chat, or even get a guest on to have a chat about a few things as well. Plenty of guys out there that say they'd love to come on one of our shows. So we'll see how we go. All right, guys, that's about it again for this week. And see you in a couple of weeks for this show. And look forward to our updates while I'm in Vegas. Thanks again.